The Reckoning at Route 66. The jukebox at Route 66 Bar and Grill was belting out Creedence Clearwater Revival's swampy rhythm when the sharp crash of breaking glass sliced through the Friday night din. Conversations froze. Beer bottles paused halfway to lips. All eyes swung toward the far end of the bar, where two men, one in a grease-stained trucker cap, the other in a leather vest stitched with faded military patches, stood nose to nose, their voices climbing over each other like dogs fighting over a bone. A third guy, clearly 3 sheets to the wind, had just knocked over a row of whiskey glasses in a sloppy attempt to join the argument. The room held its breath, waiting for the next move. Behind the bar stood Elena Walsh, her hands gripping the scarred wooden counter like it was the only thing keeping her tethered to the earth. At 48, she carried herself with a quiet strength that didn't need to shout to be felt. Her dark hair, streaked with silver at the temples, was pulled back in a no-nonsense ponytail, and the lines around her eyes spoke of laughter and loss in equal measure. "That's enough," she said, her voice low but edged with an authority that could stop a charging bull. The men didn't hear or didn't want to. The argument grew hotter. A fist flew. Chairs scraped across the hardwood as patrons scrambled to clear the danger zone. Elena didn't flinch. She reached under the counter and pulled out a Remington 870 shotgun, its finish worn from years of handling but gleaming with care. She pumped it once, the metallic chunk cutting through the chaos like a guillotine. Aiming at the ceiling, she fired. The blast was deafening. Plaster dust drifted down like snow, and silence swallowed the room. Every head turned to her. "In case you gentlemen forgot," she said, lowering the barrel to rest on the counter. "In my establishment, we solve problems like men, straight to the face and honest to God." The two fighters, Rick and Donovan, stepped back, suddenly fascinated by the floor. Elena's gaze pinned them like a drill sergeant. "Rick, you've had enough. Bill will drive you home." She nodded toward a gray-haired man at the bar's end. "Donovan, your tab's on the house, but you're cooling off outside for 15 minutes. Neither argued. They knew better. As the men shuffled out, the bar's hum returned, tentative at first, like a heartbeat finding its rhythm. The jukebox, as if sensing the storm had passed, kicked into Lynyrd Skynyrd's Simple Man. Route 66 wasn't just a bar, it was a living monument to Americana. License plates from all 50 states lined the walls, mixed with rusted motorcycle parts, neon signs, and faded photos of military units from Vietnam to Desert Storm. The bar itself, polished to a sheen, was crafted from reclaimed wood off an old Navy ship. Each table, unique, had been salvaged by Elena from shuttered joints across the Southwest. Above the bar hung the heart of the place, Jack Walsh's naval dress uniform, encased in a custom display with his medals and a photograph of a younger, grinning Jack beside his 1989 Harley-Davidson Softail, same bike Elena still rode daily. Jack, a Navy SEAL, had dreamed of this place. After 20 years of service, he'd planned to retire and open a bar where veterans could gather, swap stories, and keep the brotherhood forged in combat alive. He'd found the perfect Spoten abandoned gas station on the edge of Pine Ridge, Arizona, 15 miles from Fort Wooka Military Base. He'd started renovations, sketching blueprints with care. Then came Operation Desert Storm in 1991. One final mission. Jack didn't come home. The official report said accident during operations, a training exercise gone wrong, mechanical failure. The details were classified, vague. Elena got a folded flag, condolences, and a ceremony blurred by tears. Grief nearly broke her, but 6 months later, staring at Jack's blueprints, something shifted. She would build his dream. 3 years of permits, loans, and setbacks followed, but in 1994, Route 66 Bar and Grill opened. It became more than a business, it was the beating heart of Pine Ridge, a sanctuary for veterans and bikers, and Elena, riding Jack's Softail through desert storms, became a legend in her own right. What most didn't know was the weight she carried. Elena had testified against organized crime years before, staring down threats far worse than bar fights. She'd buried Jack, her anchor, and rebuilt from ashes. She still woke reaching for him, kept his dog tags in her pocket, and wondered if her life was just a monument to his. But soon, everything she'd built would be tested by a storm she never saw coming. It was a Tuesday in late October when the stranger walked in. The desert air had cooled to a golden autumn crispness, and Elena noticed him the moment he crossed the threshold. Not because he stood out medium height, athletic, close-cropped hair just starting to gray, but because of how he moved. Veterans, especially combat vets, had a way about them. His eyes swept the room, cataloging exits, corners, potential threats, before he chose a seat with his back to the wall, facing both doors. He ordered a beer and nursed it like it was a lifeline, his gaze never resting. Elena knew the Seinscheiper vigilance, controlled breathing, the faint tension of someone haunted by ghosts. She'd seen it in Jack after tough deployments, in countless vets who'd passed through her bar. She set a glass of water beside his beer. "First rounds on the house for military," she said. "Active or retired?" He looked up, surprised, his deep brown eyes assessing her. "Appreciate it. Michael Cooper, recently discharged. No handshake, no small talk. Elena Walsh. This is my place." She nodded at his jacket, standard issue army, but stripped of patches. "Afghanistan or Iraq?" "Both. Mostly Afghanistan. Special Forces." She recognized the clipped tone of someone not ready to share war stories. "My husband was a SEAL. Died in Desert Storm." Something flickered in Michael's eyes, recognition, maybe, or shared loss. "Sorry to hear that. Long time ago," she said, gesturing to the memorabilia on the walls. "That's why this place exists. Jack's dream. I just built it for him." Michael's gaze lingered on Jack's uniform, the SEAL trident gleaming. "He'd be proud," he said simply. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Over the next few weeks, Michael became a regular, always in that corner seat, always sipping 1 or 2 beers over hours. He kept to himself, but listened intently to the veterans' stories, especially the Vietnam vets on Thursday nights. Bit by bit, Elena pieced together his story: 10 years in Special Forces, 4 tours in Afghanistan, classified ops he couldn't name. Stateside for 6 months, he still jumped at loud noises and slept in fits. Elena didn't push. She just kept his corner clear and sent over food when he forgot to eat. It was a dance she knew well: support without intrusion, presence without pressure. Route 66 was a place where silence was respected, ghosts were acknowledged, and healing came slow. But Michael wasn't just there for refuge. He was hunting answers that would soon upend Elena's carefully built world. 3 weeks later, a new voice cut through the Thursday night chatter, polished and out of place. "So, this is the famous Route 66 I've heard so much about." Elena looked up from mixing a whiskey sour to see a man in his mid-50s, his tailored suit screaming money, his Rolex glinting under the bar lights. His smile was all teeth, no warmth. "Depends who's asking," she said, sliding the drink to a customer and wiping her hands. "James Mercer, CEO of Ascendant Properties." He extended a manicured hand. Elena didn't take it. "We're not for sale, Mr. Mercer. Save your pitch." His smile didn't waver, but his eyes hardened. "You haven't heard my offer, Miss Walsh." "It's Mrs. Walsh, and I don't need to hear it. This isn't just real estate. These walls hold 30 years of memories. Not everything has a price." "Everything has a price," Mercer said, placing a business card on the counter. "My company's developing the commercial district into a modern complex. Your bar is the last holdout. I'm offering well above market value." Elena glanced at the card but didn't touch it. From the corner, Michael watched, his expression unreadable. "The answer's no," she said. "Can I get you a drink, or are you just wasting my time?" Mercer's charm evaporated. "People like you don't understand progress. It happens whether you participate or not. The smart ones profit. The stubborn ones get washed away." "Is that a threat?" "It's reality. My offer's good for 48 hours. After that, things get complicated. Safety regulations, fire codes, structural integrity, health standards can be stringent. It'd be a shame if violations were found." Elena leaned forward, her voice low and dangerous. "This bar's been here 3 decades. It'll outlast your plans. And if you're playing dirty, remember the sheriff, the fire chief, and half the county commissioners drink here. Find the exit." The air shifted as Regulars, a couple of burly bikers, an off-duty, edged closer. Mercer noted the change, adjusted his tie, and left an envelope beside the card. "My formal offer. Have your lawyer review it." His Italian shoes clicked out the door. Elena waited until he was gone, then tossed the card and envelope into the wood stove, watching them burn. Cheers erupted from the Regulars. "That's our Elena," called Ray Blackwood, a 70-year-old Vietnam pilot who'd been coming since opening day. She forced a smile, but unease coiled in her gut. Men like Mercer didn't back down, and his confidence screamed trouble. That night, after closing, Elena was wiping down tables when she realized Michael was still there, nursing a warm beer. "We closed 20 minutes ago," she called. "Must have missed you." He looked up, as if surfacing from deep thought. "Sorry, got lost in my head." "Finish your beer," she said, continuing her routine. Silence stretched, comfortable in its way. Then Michael spoke. "That man, Mercer, you need to be careful. I know his company, Ascendant Properties, and their security arm, Nexus." Something in his tone made her pause. She poured a finger of bourbon and joined him. "What's your interest in Nexus?" Michael weighed his words. "I've been investigating them for 3 months. They're not what they seem. On paper, a security firm for Ascendant. In reality, they're running drugs through military transport channels from Afghanistan to the U.S., using bases like Fort Wooka." Elena's eyebrows shot up. "That's a hell of an accusation. I have evidence, not enough yet, but I'm close." Nexus is run by Marcus Reynolds, ex-CIA. He uses government connections to bypass inspections, hiding drugs in equipment crates, medical supplies, anything coming back from overseas. The name hit her like a punch. "Reynolds," she whispered. Michael caught it. "You know him?" "I know of him. Jack mentioned him in his letters from Desert Storm. Said Reynolds was running an operation called Mirage that felt wrong." She paused, memories surfacing. "His last letter said he was going to report irregularities. 2 weeks later, I was told he died in a training accident." Michael leaned forward. "Mrs. Walsh, I don't think it was an accident. I think Reynolds had him killed." The words hung like a guillotine blade. Elena's throat tightened, her hands cold despite the bourbon's warmth. For 32 years, she'd accepted the official story not because it made sense, but because the alternative was too raw. "That's a hell of a thing to say." "I wouldn't say it if I wasn't certain," Michael said, regret in his eyes. "Reynolds has a pattern. Anyone who threatens his Operation military personnel mostly dies in accidents. I've traced 7 deaths to him." "Why are you after him?" "My brother, an Army Ranger at Bagram, noticed irregular shipments handled by Nexus. He asked questions. 3 weeks later, he was killed in an insurgent attack, with no witnesses, no insurgent claims. His body was cremated before I could see it." Understanding dawned. "So you want justice?" "I want Reynolds exposed, his operation dismantled, and the truth out for every family he's destroyed." Elena stood, her hands trembling as she pulled a lockbox from under the bar. Inside were Jack's letters, tied with faded blue ribbon. "These are from Desert Storm," she said, returning to the table. She found the one she needed and read aloud, her voice unsteady. "Something strange is happening, Ellie. Operation Mirage, run by a CIA spook named Reynolds. We're securing shipments, but can't inspect them. Feels wrong." Another letter. Reynolds was here again. 3 shipments went out under Mirage. Overheard him talking about product and market value. "This isn't intelligence. It's profit. I'm documenting everything." The final letter shook in her hands. "I confronted Reynolds today. Big mistake. He didn't threaten me outright, but the message was clear. Men who stick their noses where they don't belong have accidents in war zones. I'm going to General Harrison tomorrow. If something happens, Ellie, know I love you more than life. Question whatever they tell you." The letter slipped from her fingers. She'd read it before, in the haze of grief, but hadn't grasped its weight. 2 days after it arrived, officers told her Jack died in a helicopter crash, mechanical failure, body unrecoverable. "Jack was meticulous," she said, voice hollow. "Why would a SEAL team do helicopter training mid-deployment?" Michael's eyes held hers. "He was killed because he was going to expose Mirage. The same operation's still running, just with new routes and products." He slid a photo across the table, taken weeks ago at Fort Wooka. "That's Reynolds." Elena stared at the man, mid-60s, steel gray hair, sharp nose, cold eyes. "I saw him at Jack's memorial," she whispered. "He offered condolences, said Jack understood duty and sacrifice. I thought it was odd. He was there to make sure you didn't ask questions," Michael said. "And now his company wants your Barra strategic spot for their smuggling." Anger surged, burning away shock. For decades, she'd honored Jack by building his dream. All the while, his killer thrived, destroying others. "What do you need from me?" she asked. Michael hesitated. This is dangerous. Reynolds kills to protect his operation. I've been involved for 32 years without knowing it, she snapped. Jack died trying to stop him. The real way to honor him is to finish what he started. Michael studied her resolve, then nodded. Information, access, a base. Your connections in the military and community could get us evidence for the FBI or DEA. You'll have it, she said. And allies, veterans, law enforcement, people who owe me. Good people. The more who know, the riskier it gets, he warned. Some risks are worth taking. She looked at Jack's uniform, a fire kindling in her chest. For the first time in years, she felt purpose beyond survival. The next morning, Elena rode Jack's Softail to Pine Ridge Cemetery, the desert air sharp against her face. She hadn't planned the detour, but she needed to see Jack before diving into this fight. His grave, a simple military marker with his name, dates, and seal trident stood on a slope overlooking the town. She knelt, brushing away leaves. "Hey, sailor," she said softly. "Looks like I'm finishing your mission. 32 years late, but better than never." The stone was silent, but she felt a rightness settle in her bones. "I don't know if this'll bring peace or pain, but you'd want the truth out. You always said a seal finishes the job." As she stood, her knees creaking, she spotted a black SUV with tinted windows at the cemetery entrance. It hadn't been there when she arrived. Instinct screamed warning. She took a winding route back to town, watching her mirrors. The SUV didn't follow, but the sense of being watched clung to her like dust. At Route 66, Bill Hernandez was already at his usual stool, despite the bar not opening for an hour. At 65, the former Marine still carried himself with ramrod posture, his salt and pepper mustache a badge of pride. "You're planning a murder or a wedding," he said, eyeing her notepad. "Since I don't see bridal magazines, I'm guessing murder." She slid him a Budweiser. "Just thinking. Dangerous pastime." He took a sip. "Want to share?" She hesitated, then dove in. "What do you know about Marcus Reynolds?" Bill's eyes tightened. CIA spook, old school. Ran ops in Central America, then the Middle East. "What?" He came up in a conversation. "Tied to Nexus Security." Bill leaned closer. "Nexus? That's the outfit for the development trying to buy you out. Reynolds running security is overkill. Man's got a reputation for efficiency, polite term for not caring about collateral damage. Rumors in Desert Storm about side operations, using military resources for profit. Never proven." Elena's throat tightened. "Jack mentioned him in his letters. Said Reynolds ran Operation Mirage, something shady. I think Jack was killed for trying to expose it. And I think Reynolds is still at it through Nexus." Bill whistled low. "That's a hell of a claim. What's the plan?" She told him about Michael, the evidence, and Ascendant's interest in the bar. Bill listened, his face growing graver. "You're talking about people who've killed to protect secrets, with connections everywhere. You're risking everything." "Jack died for the truth," she said. "I owe him this." Bill nodded slowly. "You'll need a team. Sarah Mitchell, combat nurse from Desert Storm, now at the Via Sharp and discreet. Ray Blackwood, 70, but still flies his Cessna. Could be useful for surveillance." Gratitude warmed her. "Thank you, Bill. Don't thank me yet. Reynolds is ruthless. We need to be smarter." That night, after a rowdy crowd of bikers cleared out, Elena locked the doors and gathered her team in the back room. Bill, Sarah Mitchell, Ray Blackwood, and Michael sat around a scarred oak table, maps and photos pinned to the walls. "Thank you for coming," Elena began. "Some of you know parts of this. Others are hearing it for the first time. I trust you with my life, and you'll want and once you understand." She gestured to Michael. "Michael Cooper, former Special Forces, is investigating Nexus Security for drug smuggling through military channels. I believe my husband, Jack, was murdered 30 years ago for trying to expose the same operation run by Marcus Reynolds, now tied to Ascendant Properties." She laid out Jack's letters and Michael's evidence. Ray studied a photo. "This shipment schedule matches odd flights I've seen at the airstrip near Fort Wooka late night, minimal crew." Sarah examined the letters. Jack's descriptions match cases at the Viavits with knowledge of classified ops dying in accidents. "I can compile anonymous statements." Bill added, "Nexus has unusual access to Fort Wooka, authorized from Washington, bypassing base command." The plan took shape: surveillance, infiltration, hard evidence. Ray would fly reconnaissance. Sarah would gather vet testimonies. Bill would probe military contacts. Elena would coordinate, using her community ties to move unnoticed. Michael warned of risks, but Elena was resolute. They don't see me as a threat, just a stubborn widow. That's my edge. Days later, Elena rode to the Ascendant construction site, parking the Softail behind rocks and scanning through binoculars. The site was standard trenches, materials, equipment, but the security was military-grade. Men in tactical gear patrolled, their movements disciplined. Then she saw him, Marcus Reynolds, overseeing an unmarked military truck unloading crates with no paperwork. Her hands tightened on the binoculars. This was the man who'd stolen Jack. Rage urged her to confront him, but strategy won. She snapped photos and retreated. Back at the bar, Sarah confirmed the crates were military-grade, used for sensitive materials. Bill reported Nexus's access to restricted base areas. Michael was tense. You took a risk going alone. We needed eyes on them, Elena shot back. And we've got confirmation Reynolds is running this. The evidence was mounting, but not enough for authorities. They needed more. Then everything shattered. At dawn, Nexus assaulted Route 66. Armed men breached the doors as Elena grabbed Jack's Colt and dove for the secret tunnel Jack had built into the bar's foundation. She emerged in a drainage culvert, heart pounding, and slipped through alleys to Manny's diner. Using a payphone, she called Ray's secure line. Broken Arrow, she said. Manny's back booth. Need extraction. 10 minutes. Blue pickup, honks twice, Ray replied. At the diner, she blended into the breakfast crowd, the normalcy surreal against the violence she'd escaped. Michael's truck pulled up, and she slid in. Ray's dead, he said, voice tight. They hit his place first, made it look like a robbery. I found him. Grief hit hard. Ray, who'd flown with Jack, was gone. They're eliminating threats, Michael said. Bill's at his cabin. We're headed to a safe house. The safe house, a fortified cabin in the desert, was a fortress, concrete walls, solar power, stock supplies. Michael worked on decrypting files Catherine Mercer, James's wife, had provided an insider feeding the FBI evidence against Nexus. But the FBI hadn't moved, likely stalled by Reynolds' influence. Elena slept fitfully, dreaming of Jack urging her forward. Waking, she found Michael gone, a note saying he'd gone to a secondary drop site. Hours passed. At dusk, headlights approached an SUV. Catherine Mercer stepped out, alone. Reynolds has Michael, she said through the speaker system. He was captured meeting my FBI handler. The agent's dead. Michael's at a Nexus facility. She held a tracker showing Michael's location via an experimental implant. Elena hesitated. Trust was thin, but Bill's arrival with Jenkins, Michael's cousin and a Fort Wooka officer, tipped the scales. They planned a rescue. Infiltrate a Nexus black site via old mining tunnels, with Catherine and Jenkins creating a diversion. The facility was a fortress, but the tunnels were their edge. Elena and Bill crawled through dust-choked passages, emerging in a maintenance room. As Catherine's diversion drew guards to the gate, they moved, disabling a technician and bypassing security with Catherine's key. On the interrogation level, they used an EMP to kill cameras and locks. In room 3, they found Michael, battered but defiant, with Reynolds holding a tool over him. Elena aimed the Colt. Step away. Reynolds, calm, recognized her. Mrs. Walsh, an unexpected development. This is for Jack, she said, shooting his shoulder when he lunged for a weapon. They secured him and fled as alarms blared, navigating back to the tunnels amid gunfire. Bill stayed behind, covering their escape with flashbangs. At the tunnel exit, FBI agents waited. Not Nexus. Catherine had coordinated with Assistant Director Warren. Reynolds was arrested, his empire exposed by the evidence. Bill survived, emerging wounded but alive. Michael, weak but grinning, admitted the FBI sting was planned, his capture a calculated risk to draw Reynolds out. Elena stood in the desert dawn, Route 66 gone, her life upended. But justice for Jack was real. She wasn't just his widow anymore, she was Elena Walsh, ready to write her own story. What would you have done in Elena's place? Pursue justice through the system, or take revenge with your own hands? Is there ever a clear line between the two? If you were part of her team, would you have risked everything for a decades-old truth, or walked away to protect your own future? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Hit that like button if this story gripped you, and subscribe for more tales that make you question everything.